Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. So last week, we talked about why we played the CosmereRPG, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how. So spoiler alert, the handbooks do assume that you have read through Oathbringer. So will we. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Irving so we can start talking about a Session 0.
Yeah, welcome everyone. A session 0 is sort of that pre-game conversation you have. It's talking about, hey, what are we going to be playing? In this case, CosmereRPG. What are like safety tools people feel comfortable with? Like what topics are okay to discuss? What ones do you want to gloss over? How do you want to deal with something complicated that comes up at the table like that? They're just a good overall thing to have to make sure, this is a social game and a social environment, and it's sort of establishing the social contract. The handbook has a really good section in the game mastering section at the end that has a safety guide and sort of a little outline of what you would do to address that. There's even a note from Brandon that's like, hey, these are some difficult topics that are in the source material that's embedded in this setting. You might want to bring these up.
Yeah, some of the things you also might want to cover are scheduling, the bane of every campaign's existence. You might want to work on, like, what kind of story do you want to tell? Like, some people get really into the roleplay element, don't care as much about combat. Some people are murder hobos and just want to kill everything. So there's any number of things you can establish so you can really make sure that your party is on the same page before you actually go into playing the game and your campaign.
Yeah, I know you don't have as much experience with this, Kyle, as I do, but
Yep.
basically every, like, the start of that group text to the D&D group or the RPG group is, hey, want to play games at this time, and then, like, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly. That is, like, the beginning of the conversation for me, so much that it even precedes, like, a session 0.
That's good to know, because I know that, like, everyone you ever talk to, that's always the number one thing that gets in the way, right?
It's the biggest meme is that, like, oh man, scheduling is the most difficult part. And it's like, yeah, it can be, we're adults, but also we're committing to do this thing together. So just lead with the scheduling discussion. Just be like, hey, these are the times. Are you interested? And if they say yes, well, it's kind of on them, with the understanding that things come up. Like, people got families.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, there's a number of different resources out there to be able to read more in depth about Session 0 for every type of TTRPG. But let's be honest, the main thing we wanted to get into this week is you can't run a game without knowing some of the rules. So we probably need to do at least a general overview of the handbook. So the Stormlight Handbook is the main thing that's out there right now that has the majority of the rules. We did mention that there are the starter rules that are available on Demiplane and Drive-Thru-RPG, so that way you can get just a general feeling for the game with the really core, absolutely like main set of rules you need. But the handbook's broken up into a number of chapters. I believe there are 13. This week, we're only going to cover the first 3.
And broadly cover.
Very broadly. We're not going in depth. Let's be honest, go buy the book. They're pretty sweet.
We're not going to read the books to you as much as you might want to hear our dulcet tones.
Absolutely. So a big portion, this will kind of tie back a little to what we were talking about. Like a big portion of a lot of people's Session 0 is character creation. So that is actually what Chapter 1 is about. So it's broken down into like 3 segments of like before, then the actual steps, and then character advancement. So for before, that's a lot of where you can really talk about what kind of story are you going to tell. Are you going to tell a collaborative story? Are you going to tell a compelling story? Is story the main thing, or do you just want to run around in Roshar and have a blast being Radiance and smacking around different enemies? But then after that, it starts walking through character creation steps.
Yeah. And something that I feel like will come up anytime stories talked about is how canon that dreaded word of canon, do you want your adventure to be? And there are some people that are like, oh, well, I want to follow exactly what happens in the books, the way it happens in the books. And then there are some people who are like, yeah, I like the setting.
One of the things
I think is a little bit more realistic for an RPG, because sometimes your players are going to say, hey, I want to stab that Light Eyes in the face. Well, surprise, it's Adolin Colin, and we know where he ends up. But, you see, you gotta let him roll for it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, whenever you're playing a TTRPG, or specifically this one, like, you definitely want to establish how close you want to stick to the canon, so that way, like, the GM knows, hey, if I introduce a character like Adon Colin, I need to make sure really quickly that, hey, that's who this is, so you don't run into that situation. But also, like, and maybe this is a hot take or whatever, but one of the things I have a tendency to say is as soon as you start playing the game, the canon's kind of out the window, because you want to make sure your characters are able to do what they want to do. So that's why those expectations matter. But then, like, the story's about the player characters, not necessarily following Kaladin's story. If you want to do that, go read the books. Like, but the canon's important and how they want to weave in and out of the canon. But like, you're gonna break canon at some point because it's gonna be fun. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. And if it's really important to you, there are like guidelines in the Radiant paths of like, hey, certain Radiant orders don't let you unlock this power until you've said this oath, and you're free to do that. It's very cool. I won't be, because I want to do the cool things. I want to fly.
Also, Division's awesome.
Yeah. The whole canon story, it kind of makes me remember this kind of mid quality Lord of the Rings RPG that came out on the GameCube, I believe, that you basically had a party that mirrors the Fellowship, and you are just like 2 or 3 scenes behind them at all times.
Was that the Third Age?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I played that one too. And
okay,
yeah,
someone else knows about that game. Amazing. I kind of like, but your RPG experience is kind of that. You can be around or tangential to canon, but like, or events of the books, but you get to experience them from a new angle, or like it's just after they were there. And that's fine. It can be cheesy, but it can also be fun. Now, why don't we get into starting with the attributes?
Yeah, well, so basically there's like 8 steps, right, to character creation. So
attributes is later, and I jumped ahead.
yeah, a little bit. That's all right. We're all good. That's the fun part about a podcast. We don't have a script. We just have at best. I don't even know that you can really call our outline an outline. It's like the idea of an outline.
Some people have scripts. They're very organized and better at this.
Yeah, we might get there one day, but probably not. Let's be honest.
I
So
can't read.
You just know what the words.
Yeah.
So step 1 in your character creation, they've actually broken it down into 8 steps, which is very useful. Like every time I've created a character, this thing's been actually really handy.
Well, say the steps. I have a question following.
Sure. So step 1 is you choose your origin, which is whether you're a human or a singer. Real quick spoiler reminder through Oathbringer, you find out that the singers are the natives to Roshar. So you get to choose which one of those characters you want to play. Then you're going to choose your starting path, which is basically like your character class. They call it heroic paths for the CosmereRPG. Then you're going to choose your attributes. So that's the classic, your strength, your speed. This game has your willpower, your intellect, your presence, and your awareness. You're going to choose your skills and your expertises. Your skills are going to be what you're using a lot of times to make your test while you're playing the game. And then your expertises are going to be cultural and or weapon, armor, and then those can really expand later on. Then you'll choose your talents.
Are huge.
Yeah. Then you'll choose your talents, which are the like the special abilities that you're able to unlock every time you level up. You'll be able to get your equipment, tell your backstory, and then just calculate all of your final stats, like your defenses, your skill test abilities, and all of that. So that's the general 8 steps.
So my question from the beginning: do you follow those steps in order?
Not always.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm not
neither
gonna
do
lie.
I pop around, and it's like, oh, I want to play this kind of character.
I will easily fall down the rabbit hole of like, it will take me so long to come up with what do I want to play, because every time I start, if I go in and I'm like, I'm going to play a warrior, then the first thing I do is end up playing a lead or an agent. So honestly, like some of what I recommend is like, the cool thing with this system, as we mentioned last time, is you get to a la carte your character. So go through and figure out like, what's your plan? Now that could change later. Cool thing is, it's actually worked into the game that you can respec as needed, as long as you have enough downtime.
Oh,
But
is that really an option? Is
yeah,
realigning talent points?
do I remember exactly where it is in here? No. But there is a place where you can where it kind of leaves it up to the GM, like, hey, if you're 3 levels into an agent and you're like, I really don't like playing this character, like you can easily do like a downtime meditation day to like rethink your life, and then you could respec. But I think it
Mhm.
actually is in here. Now
Oh
that you
yeah,
asked it, I
downtime
don't
activity,
remember.
self-reflection.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
See, I have a standing rule in my games of like up to level 3, you can change your character entirely. Obviously not in the middle of a session, but if it's, you come to session 3 and you're just like, you know what? I'm not jiving with leader. I just don't like that support playstyle. And you say, I want to play an agent. I want to get up there and hit things from behind and, suppress them. Go ahead. We're here to have fun. That is the overarching, most important rule. Everyone's here to have fun.
Yeah, the two rules that I am a big proponent of, and that as much as I love all game rules because I'm a weirdo that even just reads character stat blocks for fun, have fun and the rule of cool. You can supersede whatever you want. That's the fun part about being a GM. You decide how the story is being told, and along with your characters. So,
Yeah, didn't you
yeah,
give someone a shard blade
okay.
in Bridge
It,
9?
it was a one-off. They rolled like 3 opportunities in a row. So yeah, the funniest part is I give them a shard blade, which is normally a at minimum level 5 to I think a level 6 actually is the earliest you can get a shard blade. I gave a level 1 character a shard blade. But then the funniest part was the other people were so excited to jump into the combat that they took down the enemies before he could even use the shard blade. So he really just had a really fancy ornament the whole adventure.
Still, that just serves to highlight. Have fun.
Absolutely. And
Back
they
to
still talk
character
about it.
creation.
Like
Yeah,
we weren't
there
gonna
you go.
we weren't gonna follow those characters past just doing this intro adventure. So they all just still joke about it today.
Back to character creation. We have the steps. You follow them at your leisure. We're going to go through them in order, just because they pre-made our episode outline for us, folks. It's
I know,
great.
right?
Uh, and the first one of those steps is choosing your origin. So that be it. Do you want to be of human ancestry on Roshar, or would you like to be a singer? Sort of the benefits of that we can get into more detail now or perhaps later. Uh, the
We can
game
go ahead and get
does,
into it now.
yeah, the game allows you to pick a singer. So if one of your players says like, "Hey, I want to play this," kind of work together to figure out what their place in the fiction is, because singers have a complicated place in the fiction. A lot of them serve Odium, and then a lot of them have been oppressed by the humans for years, but unable to act because of reasons. Uh, so, what started the singer character's sort of path to being in the story? That is, I think, an important thing to figure out, but it has no bearing on their sort of stats.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like, so if you play as a human, you get a bonus talent at level 1, and then I think both of them actually end up lining up starting at like 6, 11. You start getting bonus talents as you go.
Yep,
But the
it's the
difference with the
start of
singers,
every tier.
yeah, and the difference with the singers is they start off with the ability to change form. So you kind of almost have multiple bonus talents at level 1, because you pick which one of you get the change form at level 1, and then you get to determine like, do I want to do forms of finesse, forms of wisdom, forms of resolve. So you can kind of change your. I think they're pretty cool because you can change your talents as you're changing your form. So it definitely can add a really cool element. And then for the humans, like you just get your standard human ancestry, and you can start off with 2 bonus talents. So later on, when we get to the heroic paths, like no matter what heroic path you take, you get a key talent for every path. But you get 2. Then you can either take the next one in that talent path, or you can take the key talent from a different talent at level 1. So it gives you a little bit of
So you get
flexibility with
one
it.
additional talent. I think you said two there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you start off with 1 and then you get an extra. So
Yep.
you end up with 2 talents by the end of level 1 if you're a human.
All right. Yeah, and that's pretty cool. Now, it does say specifically a heroic path. So later on, if you've added a radiant path, you can't get the bonus talent there, as is the bane of many of my character builds.
Yeah, that it does specify that when you're getting those extra talents, you can't double dip into a radiant talent in one level.
Yeah.
So after you choose your ancestry, then you go into your culture. And the culture really helps you establish your backstory and where your character comes from. You basically choose like your two parents, what cultures did they have, what area of Roshar did they come from, which then helps out when you're adventuring. And for example, if someone has the Alethi cultural expertise, if you go to the war camps, you would understand the layout of the war camps. You would know who the different high princes are, like where their camps are located. So it's going to make you a little more of an expert there. And then if you pick like a Shin ancestry, if you run into a Shin person, you would understand their language, you would understand their culture, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and a cool thing that a lot of the adventures will do, they'll say if a character has this expertise, they automatically pass this roll in a situation where it might be like a lore test or a deduction test. And so those expertises really can make your character feel unique and like you have this connection to the world. Uh,
Yeah.
but they're, don't go into it thinking like, oh, how can I juice the most power out of this? This isn't a power gaming feature, really. It's more of a storytelling one.
Yep. And then once you've got your ancestry, your origin, all that stuff figured out, then you go into your starting path. So we mentioned in the last episode, but I'll mention it again. There's 6 heroic paths to start, which we'll be starting with. We'll be highlighting all of these paths in more detail next week. But for this week, we'll at least go like high level what they have. There's the agent, the envoy, the hunter, the leader, the scholar, and the warrior. So
Yeah,
then, so then on your sheet, they have like a nice little chart here that explains like what the character is, what the theme of it is, the specialties it'll have, and then the one nice thing is when you're choosing your skills later, when you select your starting heroic path, you get one tick in a certain skill based on which heroic path you pick.
that, to note, does not count against the total amount you are allotted at that level. So at
Right,
level 1, you'll get 4 talent points or skill points. The free one does not count against those 4,
right.
just so you know.
So, do we want to go into like how in depth do you want to go here? Do we want to go into the specialties, any of that, or just go ahead and go on to attributes?
I think we, since we are going to talk about the heroic paths next week, we'll go on to attributes for now.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And I'll so with the attributes, as I mentioned before, you have strength, speed, willpower, intelligence, awareness, and presence. So the way this system works, you don't have to roll to figure these numbers out. You just get a total of 12 points that you get to distribute across all 6 categories. And the one thing that like they point out in here, and it killed me at first and took me forever to jump on board. 0 is totally viable in one of those options.
Yeah, 0 is considered normal. You can't do negative numbers because the game default assumes you're playing a heroic character. You'll be so and so talented at the things you do. But 0 is the starting point. It's perfectly reasonable. You might find your playstyle leans towards certain abilities more. Like I, for one, can't stand having below 3 speed because I like having a movement of 30 feet.
Yeah.
But
See, and the thing that they did that was nice is all of these different abilities can be tied into different things. So, like, strength's going to determine your lifting capacity, speed, your movement rate, willpower, your recovery die, which is how you regain health and focus. Your awareness
willpower
is
is
like,
also your focus.
yeah, that's right. It also does your focus as well. And then your awareness does your senses range. Keep in mind that at the beginning of the game, you can't go above a 3 on any of these attributes. And then at certain levels later in the game, you can actually start adding to those, and you do max out at 5. So you aren't able to ever, unless there's a talent that's taking you further, which it will say that in the talent when that is available. You are capped out at 5.
Yeah. Uh, So what I think we skipped over intellect, which is, sort of your general knowledge. That'll give you additional expertises at level 1, and you get to choose what those are.
Yep.
You get 1 per intellect point, and then your presence, which is how quickly you can establish connections with people in an area. So like it says here in the book, work with your GM to decide what connections you might have if you've been in this area before. And there's a chart of like, hey, your presence is this is how long it took you to establish that connection. Presence is also, it's a little more noodly of the skills. It's one of those ones that it's easiest if you think about it in terms of other games. It's your charisma. It's that force of personality. And so it affects things like leadership, persuasion, deception.
Yep. So then those also will help like increase your skills later. You're always going to use those as your base score. But that kind of rounds out what you are going to do, at least at character creation for your attributes.
Yeah. Now, another important aspect of your attributes is that they control your defenses. So in this game, armor, it can add deflect, which reduces damage, but it doesn't make you harder to hit. The skills are sort of broken down into physical, cognitive, and spiritual, very much like the books, how you have the physical realm, the cognitive realm, and the spiritual realm. And it's physical is strength and speed, cognitive is intellect and willpower, and spiritual is awareness and presence. Basically, 10 plus your combined score of any of those two in their section is your defense for that type. So physical defense is strength and speed plus 10, cognitive int and willpower plus 10, spiritual awareness and presence plus 10. That'll affect how difficult you are to be hit by certain abilities. And don't neglect your spiritual defense. It might seem like it doesn't matter a ton, but it can matter with some dangerous abilities.
Absolutely. So once you've moved past your attributes, then the next part of character creation is your skills and your expertises. So as we mentioned, when you pick your heroic path, you're going to gain a starting skill. That's where you get the free pip at level 1 in whichever one of those heroic paths you take. But then you get 4 points to break down in your other skill ability. So as Irving was saying, like where you have your physical, you have your cognitive, you have your spiritual, underneath of those are the different skills that you might have to roll a test for throughout the game. I'll list them out real quick because there are quite a few. But under your physical, you have your agility, your athletics, your heavy weaponry, your light weaponry, your stealth, and your thievery. So like those are pretty straightforward. Like physical skills that you might run into, like your agility might be trying to maneuver through something quickly or climb up something in a fast manner. And then your athletics, and each one of those are tied to different attributes. So like your agility is tied to your speed, athletics, your strength, so on and so forth. There's different ones for each category. But as those base attributes raise up, you're automatically getting points in those. So if your speed is a 1, your agility starts at a 1. But then you get 4 attribute points that you can spread amongst those skills. So if your speed's only 1 and you want to add a tick to agility now, if you rolled, you get a +2 on the roll. Under your cognitive, you have crafting, deduction, discipline, intimidation, lore, and medicine. And then your spiritual, you have deception, insight, leadership, perception, persuasion, and survival. So you break down those 4 points, how you would want to gain a few different benefits at level 1.
And you can only put a max of 2 in a single skill.
Yeah, and this, we'll get to that in character advancement. We'll go into tiers in a few.
Yeah.
And so this is also
a favorite skill.
A favorite what?
Do you have a favorite skill?
So I typically play, will play like a paladin type character, right? But
yeah,
I
know
that. Yeah, I know, right? But part of that is I do really like the leadership, the persuasion. So I actually fall into the spiritual skills a lot. Which
Damn
is
it, I was going to say leadership too.
Yeah, it's just it's a cool. It's a cool. Yeah, okay, cool. Intimidation, but also discipline is one that is like it's easy to forget about.
Yeah, I agree with that. Easy to forget about, but a lot of things do call for discipline tests.
Yeah, that's bit me in the butt a couple times.
Yeah.
But actually, another one that I do find kind of fun is lore. Like especially in Roshar, because like history and so much like the modern world as well, like history is very depending on who you're talking to at Roshar. So
Yeah.
sometimes there might be a book like Words of Radiance that people know of, didn't take seriously, and then you find out at some point, oh, that is a very important book that we probably should have paid more attention to. So a scholar character can really help out in helping create expertises, or finding when you find like some ruins or something like that. Yeah, the lore one's kind of fun for some reason.
Yeah. Lore is very much the, hey, I want the DM to just exposition at me skill.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
like that that's in there.
yeah, no, I love it too. Um, yeah, a fun note for later. All of the skills have in the chapter where they break them down, have a suggestion of how you can use them to gain advantage, which is an action in combat. And I like that even like insight or lore, just to continue talking about lore, have options for doing that very powerful combat action. So really any character, even if you don't think you're combat focused, you have a way to get better using the skills you like to use.
Yeah, in one of the games that I played a very a scholar character, and I felt like I was going to be kind of useless in combat. But then I found later I was able to like take skills like lore, and use them in ways like gaining advantage. So that way, even though I might not hit the hardest, I could increase my chance at hitting. So I was still contributing, or I could even do things like give someone else advantage when I got like an opportunity using lore, stuff like that. So like it was a pretty cool playthrough that I didn't think about because I normally would not play a scholar character. So
Yeah,
um,
I don't think I have used the scholar tree yet, except to like get a talent I really wanted.
I, the strategist tree is pretty cool, and the artifabrian tree is really fun. I haven't got to use it too much, but I have seen a couple people that have.
I just don't
And
think I'm smart enough for
that's
Artifabrian. I
I'm not
can't
gonna
come up
lie.
with the things.
I have that problem too. So luckily, as the GM, I don't always have to. So there's usually
Yeah,
somebody else doing that.
yeah. Let a
Um,
player who's just like, I want to create this thing, and it's like, yeah, dude, let's figure it out together.
oh, for sure. So yeah, then the other thing it has is expertises, which we did hit on the cultural ones and how those can affect the game. But you also some of your like starting skills or starting kits can actually give you an expertise in something. Like either a weapon or some armor, which can change the abilities of these different items, which actually kind of segues into equipment as well. So, like for example, while Roshar is a very warlike planet, it's not always the most like culturally appropriate thing to be wearing body armor while you're walking around, right? But for example, if you have an expertise in leather armor, it'll grant you the skill or the unique trait of presentable. So now your leather armor, you've kind of, because you're an expert in it, you've figured out how to make it blend in with your regular clothing more, so people aren't going to be like looking at you sideways because you're wearing armor at a dinner table or something of that nature.
Yeah, I think presentable might be my favorite trait that they've included because it makes so much sense. I don't know how many times I've been playing a game and a character's like, "Well, I'm at this dinner party, but I still have my full armor AC," and it's like, "Do you? Why are you wearing armor at a dinner party? That's rude."
Yeah, if you walk in wearing shard plate at a dinner party, one, good luck sitting down anywhere. But two, like everyone's going to be on guard the minute you walk into the room.
Exactly, exactly.
So part of the creation is you're going to pick your starting kit. So they do have later on in the items chapter, like they do have a list of if you're starting off. Let me just see some examples here. Like they kind of
Side
line
note,
up.
I don't I
Good.
don't think we're done with expertises yet.
Oh, sorry, I
Yeah,
did not mean to move
we
on
we
there.
just
Go.
talked about the like armor and weapon ones.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
Because there are expertise is a really big category and it can be really intimidating to some players. That's like I even have trouble coming up with expertises sometimes. I know my partner, when she's been looking at things, she's had like difficulty of like, what do I pick? uh, and you have your broad categories, the weapons, the cultures, but you can also come up with interesting things like, say your character was a mercenary, put mercenary expertise, and ask your GM or have your player ask you, like, hey, can I use my mercenary expertise to get an insight here or gain advantage? Uh, if they make a good case for it, say yes. That's sort of the fun and creative part of these expertises is that it lets you really customize your character. Kyle and I can, and we will later on, both make leader characters, and those expertises could be a big part of how they're manifesting their character differently.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, like, when it breaks down the categories for expertises, like, you've got your armor, which we talked about, you got your cultural, but utility expertises is there. And that's where you can just go wild, as well as specialist expertises. So, like, in the utility, for example, like, I love that this book gives so many examples because I agree, like, the first time I created a character, I'm like, I have no idea what to put for this. But it has, like, animal care, armor crafting, engineering, equipment crafting, history, military strategy, religion, any of that stuff can go under utility expertise. So, like, if it fits into the backstory of the character you're wanting to build, sell your GM on it. Like, every GM that I've ever met wants the players to have fun, weird and goofy things in their history that make them unique. Like, it's easy to walk in and be like, I just want to play Kaladin. And you can, but, like, also the characters that we fall in love with, like Lopin, are there too, who
Well, I
has
mean,
an
even
expertise in
Kaladin
Chowda.
has expertise in Chowda for Lopin for sure. I love that. I was gonna say Kaladin has, like, I mean, this might be crass. He has bridge running expertise.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's a specialist expertise, if anything. Not everyone's doing that. So you can do these really unique things that it can expand upon your character. And also, I as a GM would probably use expertises as a reward. Say your party takes down a, a chasm fiend. I'd probably reward you with, like, chasm fiend hunter expertise just to have that little bit of flavor and reward that accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some of the downtime activities that suggest at certain points are where you can search out, like, if you've got 10 days where you've got some downtime, like, go learn something, go meet with an expert at something, go get training. And that's where you can pick up those expertises. And it is a great reward to add because, like, for better or worse, like, this game doesn't have a lot of, like, magical items that are, like, crazy unique. Right. So, because that's what like most people think of is, like, I got a lightsaber or I got a dagger of poison. Like, those don't always exist in this. So have fun with it. Like, find different ways to reward your characters. And I think expertises are a very, like, it can be easy to skip over, but can go as crazy as you want it to.
Yeah. Brotherwise, if you're listening, I would very much like a unique magic item compendium. You can just put cool things like different fabrials in there. Maybe, I don't know, an awakened like fabric sword or something.
Something.
Yeah. Something cool. Like, I want a lightsaber somehow, some way that's not just a sharp blade.
I was just say, I mean, I kind of think of shard blades as lightsabers, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I
um,
mean, they're big anime swords. That's just what
which
they are.
which is awesome.
Yeah, which are cool.
All right. Is there anything else you want to cover under expertises?
That was it for expertises. I felt a lot about expertises.
No, like, that's a great point to make too, because, like, as you, like, we both agree, they can be something where it's very easy to overlook, but the more wild you get with it, the more fun it can be. And the cool thing with this game is it encourages the party to come up with stuff, like, together. So absolutely be talking that out with your party and your group.
Yeah.
Um,
The
uh,
next the
yeah, go
next
ahead.
step is choosing your talents. We'll probably go over that more in depth with the heroic paths since they're so closely tied.
Mhm.
Uh, I will say, you get your one talent you choose, default at the level, and then you'll get another talent from your background. If you're a singer, it'll be that, form choice. If you're a human, you have to pick another heroic path. So at level one, you'll have two talents picked. But beyond that, then we move to equipping yourself. And I believe, Kyle, you were talking about the kits.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are different starting kits, and I'll go ahead and get a list of them here real quick because I'm not gonna lie, we've kind of gone over chapters 2 and 3 all in character creation, which is how the book's kind of designed anyway.
Yeah.
So give me 1 second because I actually really like the list of these kits.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna feel a little bad here. I forgot about some of these.
Oh, 100%. Me too. You're definitely not the only one there. Because there's a lot of cool stuff in them. So they do have them. So like there's ones that can be kind of geared towards different like the different heroic paths. And I think Demiplane actually will even suggest like, hey, if you're playing a warrior, you might want to take the military kit. So it'll kind of help you through character creation. Which I do recommend using the Demiplane character builder just to try out what character creation looks like, because it'll walk you through step by step. But the ones that come natural in the book are the academic kit, the artisan kit, military, courtier, prisoner, and underworld. So the underworld kit, you're going to get like 2 light weapons, leather armor. All of the different ones have different equipment you can have for everything from a backpack to flint and steel, oil lanterns, flask and oil. Some people really dive into like all the different little pieces of equipment you can have. Some people just kind of like, that would make sense that you had that.
Oh yeah, I've had characters count their ball bearings.
Yeah, I am very much, I'm not gonna lie, I am the GM that would very much be like, does it make sense for you to have that? Then okay, cool.
Yeah. Now,
But
one kit of note here, the prisoner kit. Do you know what that is a reference to?
I don't know that I do.
It is very much a reference to the Dark Souls games.
Oh yeah. So that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure if that's where you were going with it.
Yeah, I
Um,
100% think that is a reference to Dark Souls
the
1, 2, and 3.
or to play
And actually, in
in
Elden
Elden
Ring,
Ring, they
can
just
you?
called the Wretch. Yeah,
Okay, so Elden Ring also has that wretch sort of ideal. Yeah.
yeah. But the cool thing with the prisoner kit, so this is a fun little thing that I didn't realize until I watched Shard of Opportunity. So the prisoner kit, you don't get any weapon, any armors, no spheres, so no weapons. The only equipment you get is your manacles and your ragged clothing. But a part that we're going to get to in just a minute for your characters, under the connections, you have already attracted a Radiant Sprint and you have started to connect with. So you're already kind of on the path towards becoming a Radiant. And when you get to level 2, if you later decide to take the key talent from that Radiant path, you immediately get to check 2 boxes towards the Speak the First Ideal. So while you don't have any of the other equipment, you're already really close to being able to start off as a Radiant. Like that's as close as you actually get to starting off as a Radiant is taking the prisoner kit.
Yeah.
So like I think that's just a fun little Easter egg that they included in there.
I I have this thing where ticking boxes towards the goals for me, eh, it I'm very much a it narratively happens when it needs to GM. So like if there's a good dramatic moment, I'm gonna say, yeah, check 2 more boxes.
Which
Like I want that cool moment.
for sure, like because and we'll get way more into this when we do the Radiant paths, but I think I'm kind of like I'm not as crunchy as the book makes it sound, but I'm probably a little more crunchy than the way you described it. I do want like if someone's gonna swear an ideal, I want it to be in a cool moment, not just you checked the 3rd box. Like I want it to be in a cool moment. So once we have those two, it's like as a character, as the player, and the GM, I want us to be looking for that spot to work that in.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. The second a character takes speak the like first ideal or second ideal,
oh, I'm
I'm
getting
sitting
excited.
there, I'm planning, I'm like, all right, so where can this happen that is cool?
Yeah,
But
I
I
haven't
guess
got
if they
to.
pick the prisoner kit, I could just make the cool thing happen sooner.
That is
But
true. And then some of the other kits, like the courtier kit, you do start with like you already have a patron of your noble house, which affords you like, and we'll get into patrons way later on. But they're like it'll give you stuff like you have some accommodations. You're used to a certain standard of living, so like it'd be a cool way to start off as more of
yeah,
a noble character.
it's RP fluff.
Yep. And then the military kit, pretty straightforward. You get 2 weapons, a uniform, chain armor, and then the artisan kit, you get a hammer, Tyler, a hammer,
Uh,
or a light weapon of your choosing, and you start off with leather armors. And then the academic kit, you get either a knife, a sling, or a staff. You have a uniform, and then it actually grants you an additional expertise in literature. So it says if you already have literature, then you can gain a cultural or utility expertise of your choosing, and it doesn't count against your experts chosen at character creation. So like I like that the different kits can like give you another little piece of character building, which I
I
think
just
could just
realized I forgot why literature was so important. Men aren't supposed to be able to read on this damn planet.
that's right. You
Uh,
and me, that's why I said you can't
that is
read.
correct.
You
You're
just
right.
know
I
what the
can't
words
read.
look like. You understand glyphs, but you can't read.
I'm an idiot. Oh my god. I was listening to
Oh,
one of these books today, damn it.
that's hilarious. All right. Let me get back up to my little character creation list here because God knows I'm ADD and I won't remember any of them. And so story. So we can spend as much or as little as you want on this because man, can we hit some rabbit holes.
Yeah,
Um,
I think tell your story is it's pretty cut and dried.
look,
It's a short list of instructions that can encompass a whole lot. It's kind of like a Great British Bake Off technical. It'll
yeah,
say, "Bake the donuts." The hell does that entail? Uh, Tell your story is whatever you want it to be, man.
it
You
is.
know,
So
obviously, you got to like think of a story that makes sense for a level one character. You're
right.
not a former High Lord who has all these things. No, you're starting your adventure. You're not ending it.
Yeah. Now the purpose and obstacles, like we'll break down the crunchiness a little bit of it is basically they just want like anyone that's read these, you know that like the different radiant paths have kind of a central philosophy. I will protect, I will unite, I will seek truth. So like that's where your purpose kind of starts, and then your obstacles. So like just a general one that I use a lot. Like I'm a stoneward at heart. Like I love to bring a group together to make sure that the group is doing as great as they can. And like that's just something, if you know me in my personal life, for my job, that's something I'm pretty passionate about, right? But then the obstacle is, as you all can probably tell from listening to this, I can get way lost in that and go down rabbit holes and just like lose track of the overall goal because I get really excited about the little side paths and side characters someone can take. So just how that would manifest is like if we have a goal we're going towards, a quest we're on, I'm the one that can get sidetracked and squirrel really fast. So it just helps you drive like what would my character think in this moment? Because like I'll be honest, role playing is not my strongest suit when it comes to these games, which is ironic. So like I have to write things down like that to get myself into character and not do what Kyle would do, but do what Kylan would do instead.
Is that just your Roshar name as your first syllable with the
I mean,
Lin
I
on it?
guess probably. Like it seems like that's a pretty
I
common
was
one,
about to
right?
say I know someone else who did that. So
Yeah, me and him might have both done that when we created our first characters. If you remember, I think when you ran Bridge 9, you had a
oh
Kylan and a
yeah,
Tylan in your group.
yeah, it was awful. You guys are both lovely people. Awful for saying names.
I think I did change mine to Kylar just to change it up because it was getting
Yeah.
exhausting.
Then I wanted to
Um,
call you Kyler Stern, and it's just like, great. Has anyone else read Night Angel? Uh, I
oh,
think a point for picking obstacles, pick a real one. Don't do
yeah,
the don't do the resume thing of, well, my worst trait is that I am just too invested.
I care
Don't
too
do that.
much.
Uh, Pick an actual downside. Be like, yeah, this character, they're a little like Lopin. Lopin's immature, and you see, uh, what in Dawnshard, that novella, like he
Oh,
grows past that a little bit.
love that novella too, by the way.
You know, one of Kaladin's obstacles is his like severe depression and learning to live with that. Make a compelling note for your character. Something that'll make them choose the wrong decision in a situation. Like give them a foible that is actually a foible.
Absolutely. And then the part that can go with that is your goals. So this is how the game like gives you a crunchy, and it just depends on your GM's your how you want to play the game, how your GM wants to play the game. You can be as loose or as strict with this as you want. But there are different examples of goals. So like say you're starting as a prisoner, your immediate goal might be escape imprisonment. But then it can be as high as like if you're especially if you're jumping in at Oathbringer times, like I'm hearing about these Knights Radiant, I want to join a Knight Radiant order. Then the cool thing can be is how much you that can help drive your character. But as Irving mentioned, if you have an obstacle, like maybe I want to become a Windrunner, but then I found out maybe I'm a little more like a Skybreaker, or maybe I'm a little more like a Truth Watcher. So what I thought was this path I wanted to go down, I might have failed at that. But in failing, I found out that there was actually something I'm better at. Like, so there are different elements you can work into, but some of it, like the escape imprisonment, when you escape imprisonment, the reward you might get is now I have a weapon that I found because I
Yeah,
started with manacles.
exactly.
But
Uh,
it does help give you like you can set lofty goals like I want to get a shard blade, or like I want to go meet Navani Kolan because I want to start building fabrials, or like something like that. And then that's how you can help keep track of like where you're heading, what rewards you're getting, so on and so forth.
yeah, I think the biggest thing, work with your players to make goals that are achievable in the campaign you're running.
And as a GM, it can give you inspiration too. Of like, if you've got somebody who wants to become a duelist and earn a shard blade, like now you've got a character path for someone that you might not have been planning on doing. Then now you can kind of work into the game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So they do have some other questions, like things just to give you an idea on of like, think of like what your occupation is, what relationships have you had, who are you loyal to, what's your personality look like. Like you can go as in depth or as small as you, as big or as small as you want with that. But it definitely can just help. The more you get into that, the more you might find out too. One of the reasons I like doing this during a session 0 is, as if you're creating it as a group, like you might think of something. One of the play groups you and me were in was like 2 characters were working on theirs, and one was like, oh, like I'm a scholarly, nerdy book person, and this other kid was like, the other guy was like, oh, well, I'm a kid that grew up on the streets, and so like to create a little
Yes,
cool, like
I
to
love
create a little
this.
cool
Yeah,
tie-in is she taught him how to read, like.
yeah.
And that was something that they just came up with while we were BSing making our during our session 0. But if I remember right, at the end of that campaign, like he made a big heroic sacrifice moment to save her because
Did
of
he
that
really? I
connection.
wasn't around for reasons I wasn't around for that.
Yeah, oh that's right. So yeah. Like that was how his character went out at the end of the
Oh,
campaign.
that's
And
amazing.
like I don't even know if they realize, like I picked up on that and I don't even know if they've realized that they did that, but it was like that little connection that we were just BSing and came up with during a session 0 had like a huge moment 12 weeks later when we finished our campaign.
Oh God, it took that long. That's terrifying how time flies.
No
Uh,
joke, right?
dear God.
So then at the end of the step 8 is just your final calculations. So that's what we talked about figuring out your resource pools. So your health is going to be 10 plus your strength plus any bonuses or penalties. Your focus, which is what you use to like power certain abilities. Like it's where you can kind of zone in and do something a little extra that you might not be able to do all the time.
Yeah, it's like
And it's
non-magical investiture, is
yeah,
how I
basically.
refer to it.
I think of focus as your non-magic magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's 2 plus your willpower plus any bonuses or penalties. And then so at level 1 in this game, you're not going to have investiture. But eventually your investiture is determined by 2 plus, I think it's 2, plus
It's
either
yeah,
your awareness or your presence, whichever is higher.
yep.
Um,
Then we
and then
have defenses,
yep.
which
Uh,
talked about, and it's outlined here. You'll if you're going through the book, page 24, physical,
I'm jealous
cognitive,
that you have,
spiritual.
I'm still jealous that you have page numbers.
Well, I'm using the PDF. I'm not flipping through the
Oh,
book
that's
right
true.
here.
I'm on Demiplane, so.
Yeah.
And then last few things like doing your level, any conditions or injuries. You're probably not going to have any of those at level 1, but there is a spot on your sheet for those. Notes, and then connection. And then the next part is great. Play the game.
Yeah, yeah, and go forth, have fun, and remember, this episode's brought to you by Double Stuff Oreos. When you
Oh,
just can't get enough, get a double stuff. I'm kidding. They're not paying us. I wish they were. That was a really good ad read.
that was.
Uh,
And also, double stuff Oreos are the best Oreos. Fight me. Uh,
I like regular ones, but my girlfriend also likes stale Oreos. So
wait, what?
yeah,
Anyway.
she likes them stale. Anyway, that's the end of the episode, folks. Kyle, take us away.
All right. So appreciate everyone coming out and listening. The next episode, we're going to do just a deep dive solely on heroic paths. But with that being said, let's roll the plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.